Hello. Hi guys, I'm Rachel, the test kitchen manager here at Feed, and today we have Chef Priyanka with us.
Hey.
We're so excited to have her here. We're making something really exciting. Priyanka, tell us what it is.
So we're going to be making cauliflower steaks with a pomegranate sauce. So don't be fooled by the name. There's no meat in this, but it's going to be very meaty from a vegetable standpoint.
Amazing. Let's start. So the first thing we need to do is cut the cauliflower into steaks. So I'm very interested in this technique. Show us.
Yeah, so this is probably the most important part. You want to make sure that you get whole, thick slices from the steak. From the cauliflower.
Cauliflower steak.
Yeah, so we're going to start trimming the cauliflower. I just do this by hand, taking the leaves off. And then we're going to trim the stem, but you don't want to trim it too much because you want the stem intact to keep the whole cauliflower in place. Just going to bring my little garbage bin here. Start trimming. And this is probably going to take you like the longest of this entire recipe, which is fine because everything else is pretty quick from the seasoning and the cooking.
Right, and I like how I feel like this recipe you can make for a big crowd because then you can prep all of this in advance.
Yep.
And maybe even like cook the cauliflower in advance, right?
Yeah, so my recommendation is if you're doing this for more than 4 people, you can prep all this in advance and put it in a cookie sheet and just stick it in the oven. I like to do individual portions on the stovetop because it becomes like a better sear and much more caramelization, but if you're cooking for the masses, then you just plop it in the oven.
Perfect for the holidays, you know?
Yep.
A big platter at the end. So,
we're just gonna trim this here. Discard that. You could actually use this for stock. Actually, anything that I'm discarding from the cauliflower, you could use it for vegetable stock. So just keep that in mind if you're really into, saving the world and saving all your ingredients. And
I love that idea.
Yeah. So I'm going to start here. So this is maybe about like an inch. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to slice here.
And you do need to have a really sharp knife for this, right?
Yep.
Like dull knives is when accidents happen, so keep that in mind. Always have sharp knives in the kitchen.
So this was actually a good slice, and I want to show you the end piece because sometimes this breaks apart, and that's not a tragedy. You can use that for cauliflower rice. You can use it just to saute up. You could even just saute it in this dish when we do it. But these are the slices that are the most important, so wish me luck.
Yay. I think you
okay.
Got a beautiful piece.
So we got one there, and then I'm going to turn it around. So I just turn it around, so I pivoted to the other side. Got another end slice there, and then this is another critical moment.
I think you're doing great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
So one cauliflower will give you about like 3 steaks?
Yep.
That should be your starting point.
Yeah. So I'm just going to actually shift these bits to the cookie sheet so they're out of our way. Because now the cutting board is going to become our spicing vessel, essentially.
Yes.
So, yeah, we can remove these extra leaves.
Yeah.
But again, it's all vegetables, so no harm.
Do you have a preference on the size of your cauliflower? Like sometimes
yes.
you have the little mini ones, you have some like jumbo guys.
So I would say this one is fairly on the smaller side. I like to get a bigger cauliflower, what I like to call GMO cauliflower, because I'm sure like natural cauliflower doesn't grow to be like bigger than yeah. But the bigger they are, I think the more fuller your steaks will be. So I prefer something a little bit bigger, but this works too. I think this is great for like a more individual dish. But if you're cooking for the masses and you had like a huge crowd, then like you might want to do something bigger from a cauliflower size perspective and then plate it family style.
Great. So let's talk about, I'm so excited about this, like your own spice mix that you're going to put on this. So we've already gone ahead and used a mortar pestle to grind this, but tell me, why can I not do this in a spice grinder?
So you can't, it's not that you can't do it in a spice grinder. I prefer the mortar and pestle because with Indian cuisine, we actually use a lot of our spices whole. Because it adds more of a pop in the dish and we like bold flavors. So to be sort of a median between Indian cuisine and more Western cuisine, I like using a mortar and pestle so we can get a more rustic grind and feel to the spices. So when I put it on the cauliflower and you eat it, you feel like you're getting that pop of flavor, but it's not like in your face.
Yes.
So we did go ahead and actually like mortar and pestle it a little bit.
But do you like this consistency, or
We
should
could
do
actually
a
do
little
it a little bit finer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you use like a different vegetable at the center of this dish instead of cauliflower?
You can. There's a lot of different vegetables actually like available in the Indian grocery store, but there's a lot of different squashes you can use. Like basically any vegetable that is sturdy and holds up and will take to spice really well without losing its consistency, you can use. So there's different squashes that I like. You could even try broccoli. I've experimented with that, but
like
with the
that.
broccoli, it's a little bit harder to get it to like a steak-like size and consistency, but it's great with the same flavor profile.
Great. Yeah.
So what we're gonna do now with these is we're gonna drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil.
There you go.
So it's kind of gonna be the glue for the spices.
Right.
So
And is it? Do you want to make sure that
It's-
it's going
yeah.
everywhere? It doesn't matter.
it
Does
should
need
be
to
in all the crevices. I don't like any of my food unseasoned. So basically we're just gonna massage it into the cauliflower.
Yes.
I'm sure it's feeling great right now.
Let me turn over and help
Yep.
you. All right. This looks amazing.
Yeah, so we're just gonna,
And you don't, I mean, I like that you're doing this on a cutting board because then, like, less dishes,
yeah.
important. while
So if you
cooking.
live in New York City and you have a kitchen like mine, which means you barely have any space,
Yeah.
you don't have like the luxury to use many dishes. So this is why this dish was really born, because I was like, I don't have space and I'm just going to use my cutting
a
board.
dishwasher.
Yeah. So now that we've massaged our cauli steaks, we're going to take our ground up spices and just season the steak with it.
Which spices did you use?
So this is an interesting blend. This is coriander seed. There's thyme, nutmeg, dried red chili, a little bit of salt, and black peppercorn. I like the nutmeg and the thyme because it gives like a nice wintry, like Thanksgiving feel to it. We don't use it too much in Indian cooking,
That's why
but
when I read the recipe, I was like, wow, this is unique, and I like definitely want to make a big batch of this.
Yeah.
And keep it on the side because you could literally throw it on carrots, like broccoli. You said.
Yep.
I'm also thinking like a cabbage steak
Yep.
type dish.
that would be
Right?
cabbage,
Yeah,
radicchio.
charred cabbage.
Yeah.
Radicchio. Yum.
And I will say, like, the most critical person in my life, in my entire like
Is
food,
it your mom?
it's my dad.
Oh.
So he loved this dish. So I was like, all right, this is a good dish. This is good to go. So
Yeah, dads can be pretty critical.
yep, Indian dads.
Yes, totally. Relate.
Okay. So, and this doesn't really need to marinate or anything. You could just have it chill out here until the pan heats up.
All right. Should I put some olive oil in the pan?
Yes.
Could you do this like overnight, the night before?
Yeah.
and then marinate?
Yeah. That.
That would make the flavors develop so much more, I feel like.
Yeah. You could definitely. I would say like in that. If you're going to do that, you would probably want to go a little heavier on the olive oil, so it doesn't get dry when it's sitting in the fridge or you're having it sitting out with saran wrap. So that would be my only advice there. And then for this, we might want to just use tongs to. Thank you. Just gonna.
How hard do we want this?
I was just gonna say, is there any kind of like technique in terms of, since you have the spices, you don't want them to burn in the pan?
Yeah. So I like the pan to get really hot in the beginning because there's also another technique in Indian cuisine that is a little bit of a play in this. We do something called a tadka, or in my language we call it a wagarni, which is you get the oil or the ghee really, really hot, and then you put in the whole spices and they begin to sort of sizzle and pop for about 30 to 60 seconds. And then from there you put in all the vegetables and you reduce the heat a little bit. So it's similar to that. So I want the pan to get really hot. So once we put this in, you should hear a good sizzle, and then you could lower it a little bit so then it starts cooking through and it doesn't just get burned.
Yeah.
So this might just take a minute.
Sure. Do you want to make the
Yeah.
dressing to that?
So while we wait for this to heat up, we can start prepping the ingredients for the pomegranate glaze.
Yes.
So we pretty much have all of them here, and it's a good blend of tart and sweet and spice.
I'm so excited to try this sauce.
I love pomegranate. I think it's really underrated.
I like that you use mint.
Yeah.
I've never seen that combination. I feel like I've seen it in Mediterranean cuisine a little
Yeah.
bit, where they pair mint with pomegranate, but the coconut milk, it's new.
Yeah, so
Tell us.
I like that sort of flavor profile too, which is it's a little bit like, this is hot.
Yeah.
So it's electric stove, okay. So we're gonna just plop this in. Okay. Yeah.
ASMR.
So that's this. And you don't want to crowd your pan. So I'm going to take the smaller piece here and plop it in. Wait, fits? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A little Tetris. And try to put that. I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah. There you go.
So we're going to hold off on this piece, but this guy could go in.
Taste tester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to
Okay.
just let them cook. While we do
Cool.
that, we'll...
Here, I'll move this out of your way and we can start the sauce.
Cool. So this is a little bit like, there's a lot of different influences happening here. I think pomegranate is very Middle Eastern, but it's also very Indianish. We use pomegranate as a topping for raitas and a lot of yogurt-based dishes because it's tart, so it goes really well with yogurt. But I cook all vegan, so I wanted to keep it vegan, so I kept in coconut milk instead of yogurt. And I like the mint because it adds a different sort of layer of freshness and like an herby-like flavor without being coriander, which could be a little too overpowering. And we already have coriander seed in the cauliflower, so this is very complementary.
Yes.
To go up. So we're gonna want to blend this all together. It's gonna just,
So are we blending first?
yes.
All right, so you can switch places with me
Okay.
and put everything there.
So this is super simple. You're just gonna kind of dump everything in the blender and whip it up. So we're just gonna add in pomegranate. If you could get these like
Like the seeds taken out.
yeah,
ready
seeds
to go.
taken out. That's probably the easiest. So I do that. This is fresh orange juice, and I like to use fresh because I think it has a much better flavor than store-bought or packaged orange juice. So you're just gonna wanna put that in as well. And then orange zest. I like to use almost all of my citrus, so I try to use the zest as often as possible. Just gonna plop that in there. 1 dried red chili because I can't eat anything without chili.
So what if you don't find that dried red chilies? Because I know that's not a staple pantry item for a lot of people.
If you don't find this, what you can use as a substitute is dried pepper flakes, like red chili flakes that you might use on pizza or pasta. That's a great substitute for that because it's a little bit similar in flavor profile. You don't want a wet chili because the flavor of that is going to be different and it might make the sauce a little more wet and moist than you'd want it to. And I hate that word moist, but a little bit of black pepper.
Right.
We're gonna put in our mint leaves and then a little bit of salt.
The colors there, it's so colorful.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then our coconut milk. So I'm just gonna actually mix this a little bit. And you can use light coconut milk if you wanted to. Regular coconut milk, basically.
But no kind of nut milk, right?
You can use almond, but the thing is the flavor of that is going to be different.
Right.
And I don't think it's as complementary to this as the coconut would be.
Right.
So that's why I use the coconut.
Gotcha.
Actually, to that, you're going to want to now add the onion and garlic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So just over this?
Yeah, I would just add it to the pan. The onion and garlic give it a really nice flavor, and they should saute up nicely.
It smells amazing, Alex. I wish you could smell.
Oh my God, I love this pink with the blue. I'm actually gonna taste this before. Thank you.
I'm going to try a little bit too.
This is the fanciest spoon I've ever seen.
Everyone says that.
We're fancy here.
Oh, wow.
This is
That
good.
is so good. I get a little bit of kick in the back of my throat. I love it.
I think it needs a little more salt, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add that. And I'm gonna blend it a little bit more. I want it to
Right.
get it as fine as possible before I put it on the stovetop to reduce.
Let's turn one piece.
Yeah. We're probably gonna get one really good steak from
Yeah.
that.
So what are your plans for the holidays?
I am from the faraway land called Staten Island or Shaolin. So I'm going to be going home to be with my sisters and their kids and my parents. So it'll be really nice. Food is like a huge focus of my family. So, and we're not Christian or Catholic, we're Hindu, but we use these holidays as an excuse to basically cook up a storm and then critique each other's food and just have a blast. Yeah.
Awesome.
So now we're just going to want to add this to a little pot or saucepan. And we're just going to cook it down to thicken it up as much as possible. It'll be a little bit on the the thinner side, which is fine. But we're just going to want to reduce it, and then the flavors will all come through. We might need to add a little bit of salt after it reduces, and then we'll strain it so that it's super smooth and you don't have any of those like pomegranate bits in there.
All right, so am I ready to turn this?
Yeah, looks like. Let's see. Actually, you know what's a good tester?
Right.
I'm going to take a fork.
Or that knife?
That knife? Okay. So we just want to see, yeah, there's still a little bit of resistance, but softer than when we started. So we're going to want to,
Yes.
So you want that nice color on it, and you want it to start caramelizing. So this might need a few more minutes because you really want to get it to be fork tender, and you want the stem part of it to be fork tender.
Got it.
No one wants raw veggies.
No. And could you throw this in the oven, like, you know,
Yep.
if you wanted to finish it in the oven,
Yeah.
that would be fine?
Yep. So if you don't want to babysit it, essentially, and you want to do, and you have like a lot of things going on, or you want to do a lot more cauliflower, my advice is you could take this pan straight away and stick it in the oven, or again, you could have done it on the baking sheet.
And what temperature in the oven?
I would do 350, between 350 and 375. I know all ovens vary, so that's why I always give a range, but you want to just keep your eye on it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get our plating together while that's happening.
Yep. So I like using a big platter. I love serving this dish family style, so people can pick out the pieces that they want. I tend to go for the more charred pieces, so I don't want to subject people to forcing a particular cauliflower piece on them, so I like to serve it family style so they can pick what they want.
Right.
And I like to serve this dish with arugula because it adds like more freshness and brightness. But if you want the dish to be a bit more hearty, then I actually serve this in two ways. One is with arugula, which we're doing today, and the second is with an Israeli couscous. Yeah.
Everybody likes it in the office. I think you're going to have to come back to cook for us.
Yeah, so Israeli couscous, and I do that because that's another riff on an Indian dish, which is made from white pearl tapioca, sabudana.
Yeah, khichdi.
Yeah.
So we eat it during fasting season, and it's a little bit weird because they're little tapioca balls, and the complete dish is a little bit sweet and savory. It has boiled potatoes, peanuts, chilies, a whole bunch of things. We were actually talking about it last time we met. Like, not a lot of people know about that.
Yeah.
But maybe next time we'll cook that.
Yeah, we could do that next time. So if you want it more hearty, I recommend doing some sort of carb on the bottom of it. But in this case, since we're not trying to, wail out during the holiday season because there's a lot of eating that's happening, I like to serve it with arugula because it's a little more bright and fresh. So before we put this on the platter, we just want to toss in like a quick dressing. And I don't stir it separately. I just kind of toss it all in. So this is a little bit of fresh orange juice again to complement the sauce. And it looks like a little bit, but arugula tends to wilt really easily. So I recommend like not dousing it. I actually did that on Food Network and I was dinged for that a little bit. So
Oh, wait, tell us about your show. You were on a show.
Yeah, so when I was on Food Network's Cooks vs. Cons, there was arugula in my dish. And because we were in a rush, I was dressing it, but I heavily dressed it with olive oil. And I knew it was heavily dressed, but I was like, oh God, maybe they won't notice. But when Katie Lee took a bite, there was like a big chunk of like wilted arugula in her mouth. And she was like, oh, this dish is really good, but this is like overdressed, and I was like, oh, didn't notice. So that was like, learn my lesson. But some orange juice, some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of olive oil. So I'm just gonna drizzle just a tiny bit.
Let me check on these steaks. All right, so we have a really nice char on the other side. You tell me if I need to flip it one more time. We can do the knife test.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's getting, yeah, that's good. We want to flip it one more time, so we'll use the tongs. Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Everyone loves a good char.
That's why you want to actually have that flame a little bit high in the beginning so it gets that char.
Right.
So now this is dressed, and I'm going to use my hands. I think that's the easiest way to toss any sort of leafy lettuce. I'm going to make sure it's all nicely coated. Sorry, there's some arugula going overboard.
There's some casualties.
Yeah.
And as long as your hands are clean, I feel like, you know,
Yeah.
tossing a salad with like your fingers is fun.
Yeah.
I like playing with my food.
So see, I didn't even put that much, but look,
I
it's so dressed already because
Yeah.
it just picks up on that dressing. So now we're just going to place this on our platter.
That looks so good.
I want to increase the flame on that little bit.
Cannot
Yeah,
wait
I
to
hope you
eat.
guys like it.
So,
Okay.
I know obviously you're vegan, but could we use this spice blend in this whole dish with like an actual steak?
You could. So I think because the coriander seed especially is so bold, it probably acts really well with like a red meat or a steak. I've actually never eaten steak, so you guys would have to try it and tell me. But I think any of these sort of spice blends that we use with like Indianish cooking can work with meat, because meat in itself has such a strong flavor, and then our spice profiles are so bold that they're probably very complementary. But I think between the orange juice, you could actually put the orange juice into the marinade with the spice and let the meat sit in it a little bit so it tenderizes. Yeah.
I think this would go so well with lamb chops.
Ooh.
Yes.
Lunch next week.
Yes. All right, so do you think that is ready, or we need to thicken that a little bit more?
Just one more minute, and then we're
Gotcha.
gonna strain it.
Great.
Just
Tidy up a
move the
little bit.
casualties.
Nothing like a clean workstation.
Yeah.
What's the reason for straining?
There's a lot of the bits from the pomegranate in there that are going to make it hard to eat, and they get stuck in your teeth. So I like to strain it so it's like a super smooth sauce. So when you drizzle it on it, you're not seeing like bits of the pomegranate and maybe some of the mint stems in there.
Little finesse.
Yeah. So
Awesome. So
Okay.
is this ready to come out of the pan?
yeah, I think that's definitely ready. The moment of truth here.
All right. Let's keep that our
In the centerpiece.
And these little bits here. We have some pieces here.
Those are my favorite pieces, actually, these small charred ones.
Yeah. And some of
Yeah,
onion.
you definitely want, there's a lot of flavor in that.
All right.
So now we're just gonna take this sauce and then strain it here.
I love the color on that.
I know, the pomegranate's so beautiful. And I actually, I just push this through with
There you
a
go.
spoon. You don't want to waste anything of this goodness.
Delicious. So do you cook for your family a lot? I know you live in the city, so how
Yeah,
often do you go back?
I do. But my family, both my parents and my sisters are all excellent cooks, and we're also highly critical of each other. So it's always a battle. So I'm usually cooking with my mom, and then my dad's critiquing, and then the next day he'll cook. But we like to cook together,
Right.
I would say. So there's a lot of cooking in my family. So see, this is all the stuff that we strain. We don't want that in there because it's hard to eat.
Yeah.
So now we're just gonna take one more spoon, and then we just want to drizzle it onto,
Our steaks.
yeah.
Can I volunteer myself to test this?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Let me grab you a fork and a knife.
Sauce looks amazing.
I like the color. It's
There you
very
go.
Christmassy too. See the red and the
So
green.
festive.
On like,
Thank you.
what is your like for people at home spice level? Is this like on a
Yeah.
1 to 10 basis? What level is this at?
I'm probably. This is probably like a
Three.
between a 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
it's
like
not
if-
very spicy.
It's like mine.
Yeah, this is not like if I was making this, there would be like 4 red chilies in the.
I feel like it's still gonna be spicy.
Oh, I didn't know that, Jake.
I can handle this, but I'm not saying I can't.
You just have a very jaded sense of what is spicy,
Exactly.
Rachel.
Okay.
It totally is. All right.
All right.
See this piece right here? Look at how gorgeous that chart. That's exactly like, no, when you're talking about, like, this is a cauliflower steak, this is the same kind of chart you would look up for me.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. I want to dunk it in the sauce.
Oh my God. Do it. YOLO.
Close this.
Let's see.
This is the moment of truth.
How is it?
That sauce.
It's everything, right?
And you're right about the spice. Good level.
Yeah.
Like,
It's.
I could do
I would
more.
say it's more of a 4 or 5.
What? Oh God.
Really?
I definitely have to come back and
But
make
it's-
something
but it's
spicy.
absolutely perfect heat
This
level.
is really
Okay.
good.
Super, but I think also the acid helps balance that spice beautifully.
Yeah.
Especially the coconut milk kind of helps coat your tongue, prevent you from burning.
This is like an all-purpose sauce.
I would
Like,
use that.
use
I would
on
use that. I would
anything.
use that for salad dressing. I would use
Yeah.
that as a marinade. I would use that.
Like
It's
maybe
like
even like a beauty
I'm
rod. or
sure that would be
something,
what-
like right for the pores.
Yeah.
split ends,
Yeah.
like anything,
Anything.
100%. Wow, this is so good.
Thank
You've
you.
converted us. Thank you for cooking us lunch.
Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
having me.
And you can find the recipe on our website. Go check it out. Go cook the steak. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.